What's going on, YouTube? Well, we got some beautiful vehicles to look at. We're going to do a lot of Hot Wheels premium car culture vehicles. We're going to look at a wide variety of stuff that I picked up. I was away, had a much needed rest and relaxation period. I took a little vacation and it was wonderful. If you don't take vacations a lot like I don't, it is very, very rewarding to take some time off and get off the routine bus. So I'm definitely refreshed and excited to share some cars with everyone. I will tell you, even though I was on vacation, I was not taking a break from my car search. I love looking for cars, especially when I'm in new lands, and I was able to find a lot of cool stuff. So some of that is going to be in this video today. But let me get you caught up to what's in the collection now. A lot of exciting, cool stuff from Hot Wheels and the Mattel people. So let's take a look. First off, I did find this vehicle. I was actually looking for the previous releases and never could find them at a good price. Did not want to pay the price that some people are asking. This has been released before, but I was super stoked and I almost forgot that it was coming out again. Hot Wheels Premium Entertainment. Look at this bad boy. Look at that. Scooby Doo. I've been looking for a good mystery machine forever in Hot Wheels, and too much scalpers, too many people are proud of these vehicles, and for good reason. But they did decide to re-release the casting, and they kind of improved on, I guess, some of the old styling cues of the old one. So here she is. Very, very excited to have this vehicle in the Horde. I also found another one, very excited, carded. So I have one carded as well, and that is in the lockup. Look at this thing. It's awesome. Really, really cool. Almost like a complete square. This is the exact replica of what they used in the early cartoon series. So everything is exact. Even the flower child stuff from the 60s is all over the vehicle. Great tampo work. I love it. Let's take a closer look real quick. Even has the roof racked on. Orange interior. Open window. Big bench seat. Got the 4-spoke rear rider wheels. It's got the lime green stripe. Metal base, of course. So just a really cool vehicle. A lot of people have customized this thing and done other things with it. So it's a really cool vehicle to have. So very excited to have this. This will be in the Hollywood section of the shelf. Some like the Batman and that type of stuff. So very excited to have that. You know, of course, they've done some great Hollywood stuff. I have some of the Knight Rider and Ghostbusters, Batman, of course. So this is gonna fit right in. I have Snoopy over there as well. So this is gonna be awesome. All right, so let's put the old Mr. Machine over here outside the shop, and she'll do just fine. Next, let's take a look at some other stuff. Okay, so Street Tuners. This is a cool series. Actually, I've seen a lot of these on the pegs finally, so if you are still hunting for them, be patient. You will find them. I guarantee it. But let's look at this vehicle. Now, don't bite my head off. I do customs, you know, for personal consumption. So if a car really bothers me, but I love it, I'll make tweaks to it right off the bat. This one kind of did not survive the first cut in terms of, you know, getting it on film before I wanted to tweak it, but it's okay. I didn't go too far off the mark. But let's look at the card art. Really, really cool card art. Love it. It's kind of got that chalk dust background there, which has become popular, especially if you're on social media. A lot of people like to take pictures of that stuff while they're doing runs or something. And there's the whole set of 5. I have 3 of the 5. Did not get the Nissans. I might come across some later. But we'll look at what is brand new. We've seen the S2000. We've seen RX-7s before. Let's look at something different. And, of course, we're talking about the BRZ. Look at this thing. As you can see, I took the wing off. It was kind of that soft rubber plastic that Hot Wheels has been using, kind of bendy. Not very exciting looking. Did not like a huge wing anyway on these cars. I am a fan of the BRZ and its two other brothers, the FRS and now the 86 Toyota, since they got rid of Scion. But great car. I've driven plenty of these cars. They're awesome handling vehicles. If I was in the market for a smaller sports car, this would be the one. It's definitely a lot better than the Mazda Miata MX-5 or any of the Alfa Romeo counterparts. This is a great car. Really, really good for the money. Of course, 200 horsepower or less than that on torque, probably like 150 to 170 torque. So 6-speed manual transmission, 4-cylinder Boxster, naturally aspirated. So good values on it, good throttle response, awesome handling, good brakes, all that stuff. It just doesn't have a lot of kick. And it is small. And it does drive like a small car. A lot of road noise. But it's lightweight. And that's what makes it fun. Now this is a Pandem car and this is a JDM BRZ. This car is a right-hand drive car. And you'll see that when we get a little closer to it. It does have a ducktail spoiler molded in. It's got the wide body kit on it. With the very, very aggressive front kit, which I love. I love when they split that. And that's really harkening back to cars that are on race circuits. I mean, they'll do active aero kind of like this. And it does have the diffusers all on the back, which it looks really, really good. And we got the rear diffuser done very nicely. And of course we have that really, really good stance that's done correctly as well. The wheel fitment and the back spacing looks great. So very excited to have this. I have multiples. I found some, so very excited. Might do more of a custom with one. I just don't know. We'll see where the mind takes you. Metal base. So brand new casting from Hot Wheels. It's got the Gretty licensing on it as well. Cool stuff. It's of course in the blue. And if we want to compare it real quick to more of a stock car, I was able to find a Tomica version, which is a stock, basically, Subaru BRZ, another JDM car, market car. And you can see they're almost the same scale. They're both not 1/64th. They're much larger than that. I think Tomica calls theirs a 160. Yeah, they call out a 1/60th scale. So, just like Hot Wheels and Matchbox, they make their cars to fit the box, not the box to fit the car, basically. So there we go. Just a little comparison there. Love the blue also. So, all right, let's go put her over here on the side. She's going to back up with Old Mystery Machine. Moving on down the food chain, let's look at some other stuff. So, good looking. We're on the recent release of the Transport series. As I'm putting the other BRZ back on the shelf, we have a really cool T1 Transporter split window bus with a 356 outlawed body Porsche. Very, very cool setup. Both of them have the deep dish wheels, Steelies, with the cold rolled chrome. Really like that look on that vehicle. Let's take a look at the card art as well, real fast. I'm a sucker for good card art. Look at that. Very, very neat. Of course, the biggest thing about these Transporter series is the Transporters themselves. The cars are usually amazing, but the Transporters are kind of almost fantasy. None of them are licensed, which would probably double the cost of putting this together, number one. But number two, they got to make a reasonably sized Transporter to fit in the package as well, without making them enormous and too heavy. So a lot of reasons, I'm sure, that they don't get licensed Transporters. They do have the Ford Transporter for the Ford set, but again, it's not 1/64 scale. And basically the car carrier part of it is not completely 100% accurate. But with this, I mean, you would probably never have this small of a vehicle, although these did have a pretty heavy weight rating on them. Anyway, but you would really have something like this, unfortunately. So these kind of regulated to a collecting side more than getting it for wanting it as something that represents a real vehicle. Because I have two sides of the coin with getting Diecast. It goes both ways with me. And this definitely falls into cool vehicle, cool casting, but not necessarily 100% accurate. It is nice. The livery is good. I would say this silver paint is very interesting. The fact that it looks like Zamac, but it's not. It is silver, but it's very thinly applied. So you see all the casting marks and everything there. And it really is almost like a Zamac. So that's another reason that I picked it up. Mamo, livery, licensing. They also did Tampo work on the tires, which I thought was very interesting. You know, we've seen it on drag strip Demons, but those are a little bit bigger tire sidewall. So really cool to see that Firestone graphics. And, you know, that's licensed too on a tire, smaller tire. Very, very cool. We've probably seen other NASCAR stuff as well. So, but it's very nice, and it's done in yellow. You have the Porsche Gold script on the back, which was done on 356s a lot. And, of course, we have the crest on the front with the belt buckle detail, or the bonnet buckles, rather. It would be a leather buckle there. And your gills that they would cut into those windows. Usually that would be a plexiglass insert, and they would just put those in for ventilation purposes. Of course, more ventilations too, done with the rear engine hood. Very, very nice. Okay, and of course we've seen this, so we don't really need to look at that too closely, other than it's got a great paint job on it, and it's got very, very nice graphics for the front. The headlights and the signal bulbs are done good. And there's your livery. So relatively new casting. And, you know, the T1 vehicle, split window buses, in real life, if you get one clean, there were some decent money. And they're great. I mean, they look good. I've seen the 10 window or whatever, 13 window, whatever money window bus. I've seen those done, and they're awesome. So I do like buses. Very slow, but they're cool when you see one that's restored. And to the fact that 356, I am a fan. I did a kind of a mild custom on one. Kind of just detailed it and wheel swapped it with some correct Fuchs Hot Wheels. This is probably one of my favorite rear wider wheels ever made by Hot Wheels. So they look good together in terms of having the two Porsches together. So again, very, very nice setup with Hot Wheels Premium. All right, next. All right, we're going to get into some more uncharted territory in terms of new castings. But first, let me see what else is on deck here. We are going to go look at a vehicle that has been done before. But it's very elusive. And this is a vehicle that's very difficult to find without paying exorbitant prices for it. So I'm glad that Hot Wheels stepped up to the plate, and as I'm shuffling cards here, excuse me, I'm finally glad I'm able to see it. So I'm talking about this one. I'm talking about the 80 Macho Power Wagon. This was an actual livery, an actual option group that you get on Dodge Ram trucks back then. This would have been like a W series truck. It looks like a 200 3/4 ton, so W200 Dodge. But yeah, they did this on the Simon & Simon release, which I've seen come up, but I just never purchased it. I just didn't want to spend the money. And then a couple other releases, I think. I don't think it's really been a main line. It might have been once, but most of the time it's this type of heavy-duty application, metal base and all that. It's got a newer style rear rider tire and wheel, even though these wheels are basically a larger gauge wheel than we've seen on drag strip cars. It's just a little bit bigger gauge. And of course we got this huge base, metal base with the transfer case and the drive shaft showing. We also have a little step detail there. Let's take a look. Let's take a little closer look here. So really the Macho Wagon, Power Wagon, whatever you want to call it, graphics are done very nicely. I would say the tailgate is my favorite part. It has the taillights, has a Dodge script. That's how that looked. They would have a vertical stripe on these a lot of times. This one's kind of more like an off-road livery setup. The Desert Rally series is pretty cool. It's got very loud graphics though. part of the whole set. So not one I'm going to get a bunch of examples for. Definitely they're good for their wheels and tires. I did not get the Oldsmobile casting. I will probably get it. I did see it, but I got these two first. I got the Wagoneer as well and the Beetle, because I like those more. But I'll probably get the Oldsmobile eventually. It is cool, and it's based off an actual car that ran in the Baja in the 60s and 70s. So here it is, Dodge Power Wagon. You've all probably seen it before, so we don't really need to dwell on it too much. But it is in the collection, and that'll be very fun to have. Okay, next we're going to look at another vehicle. A same story. This is one that just, goes nuts. Has been released before. Out of the set, basically the Raptor is new, but it has been used in RLC. But the old's pretty much brand new, and so is the Baja Bug. So there's our set. I get the Ford, I might not. It's undersized, so I'm not really interested in it. It's a small pickup. I don't like it when pickups are tiny. And there's the graphics. Too bad this 88 Wagoneer suspension isn't as detailed as on the card art, because it would be much more cooler. The one good thing about this Wagoneer that I like is it's the later front end, because Johnny Lightning has like the early 80s grill, and this has the later grill that Matchbox also did, and this is very close to 1/64 scale. It matches up with the Johnny Lightning car, which I'll match it up in a second. I love the teal paint job and the white roof. That looks really cool. It also has the newer style 5-spoke rims, but done with an off-road tire. So I thought that was awesome. If you put the Real Rider small tires on these with the big dish, that would probably look really cool too on a custom. So a lot of possibilities with these vehicles. Very excited to have this. Let's take a look at it closer. Again, another casting that's hard to get if you missed the first run. They command some good prices. So I was able to get 2 of these, so I'm very excited. I probably won't take this apart. I'm going to lay back and see what Hot Wheels has in store for 2020, because sometimes you might not see a casting for another few years, if not ever. There's always that chance. This is a very heavily modified Wagoneer. Of course, it's lifted, but it has a roll cage in it, which is ridiculous. And there's the bottom. This is a late 80s one. This is an 88. So they went to this truck basically to 91, I believe, is when they dropped it. This was a carryover, of course, from pre-Chrysler days, back when Jeep was an AMC product. And the Wagoneer even goes back further than that, into the Willys era, into the late 50s, early 60s, when the Wagoneer was done as a four-door vehicle. And it basically carried on the same all the way till its death in 91. It went to Chrysler drivetrain, but it did have AMC V8s in it too. But basically when it was over with, it had a 5.2 318 in it, I think. And I think a 5.9 as well. So it also had a 360 motors in it as well. And it was a full-time four-wheel drive, basically, vehicle. You could just do basically 4 high and low. So it was horrendous gas mileage. I used to drive these in high school with buddies. Very nice vehicles, very, very comfortable, but horrendous gas mileage. Unless you were to update it with fuel injection, or at least make it part-time four-wheel drive, so you can put it in two-wheel. So there it is, very, very modified Wagoneer. And let's look at the 1/64 scale. I would say that Johnny Lightning did a very good job with their scale. Of course, their casting is impeccable. Very, very nice detail, of course, on the side windows. You can see it's very evident. But just as a size comparison real quick, they're almost identical. So it bodes well to play with a cheaper casting, because, Johnny Lightning Grand Wagoneers, very expensive. So the Hot Wheels one is very good, even though it has a later model grille on it. I kind of like both of them. Really what they need to do next is a J2000, 1000 pickup based on these. It was based on the Wagoneer and the Cherokee. And J2000 would be probably very, very welcome. J-Series pickup would be very welcome in the collector community, I would say. So there it is. Jeep Wagoneer, Dodge Power Wagon, BRZ, T1, and mystery machine. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. I got these cars. These are all brand new castings. These are awesome. And when I was on my travels, I was in an area of the country that had, probably were getting these before I was getting them up here in Indiana. There's the Beetle. Look at this bad boy. This thing is amazing. Let's look at the card art. So this is done in a lime green. So this is part of the Desert Rally series. And again, there's your cars. They don't change the back, kind of like some other cars, like the street tuners. Okay, here it is. It's got the removable roof rack, which we'll take off in a second, but let's look at this vehicle very closely. I also like the fact that they molded a metal base and did the roll bars and the push bumpers and the crankcase, protection there for the engine. It's all metal, one piece. So that's like number one I love. Of course, this is a large casting. It's an enormous bug. It's not anywhere close to 1/64 scale, but it's cool nonetheless. You know, the Baja bug is really a extrapolation of an idea they had in World War II, because the Germans, they didn't have four-wheel drive small utility vehicles. That was based on a Beetle, from the 30s and early 40s. So they basically did a higher suspension travel and still had the air-cooled engine, and that was it. Basically their idea for going off-road was, instead of using four-wheel drive and a lot of parts, they had this vehicle that would basically be so light it wouldn't sink. And even though it would get stuck a lot, it probably got by with a lot of situations where other vehicles couldn't because of the light weight. So it's basically the good traction in the rear-wheel drive because the weight was over the rear tires, and the very, very light weight of these vehicles, it allowed it to do amazing off-roading abilities. It really did. So the Baja Bug, people were thinking, they had these cheap Beetles. Let's do the same thing. Let's put some wheels and tires on it. Let's jack the suspension up. Let's hop up the motor, which again, since the car was so popular, there was companies doing better everything. Cams, everything. Gearing, induction systems, carburetors, air cleaners, exhaust. Everything was coming out, as soon as the 60s hit with these cars. And they're doing fiberglass bodies to make the vehicle even lighter. And in addition to that, you could take the whole body off, use the tub, and do the Myers-Manx. So they would have a crazier thing. But a Beetle, they'd run in these in competition. This was perfect for the environments out in Southern California and Western Mexico, Baja area. Sandy, a lot of bumps, but dry, so there wasn't a lot of mud. And there wasn't too much terrain, and where you were going up very, very steep grades. I mean, you could do some grades and things like that, and there was some rivers and riverbeds, but the sand, you could drive this car at high speeds and it was kind of skip over the terrain. So it's a really amazing vehicle to use, and interesting. You didn't need brute force necessarily to do the same type of competition for four-wheel drive. So really, really cool vehicle. It's a great car for great casting by Hot Wheels. Let's take the roof off, or the roof rack off. And it just unclips from the windows. You can see there's a hole right there. And then when you look at this, it just kind of clips in very easily. This is not a spare rear rider, unfortunately. This is a cast plastic spare tire. But you can see the roof line on this Beetle is impeccable. And the livery on it is done very nicely too. So kudos to the Hot Wheels team. You can see the carburetor and air intake setup and the shroud for the air cooling. It's all there. Amazing. Bobbed fenders, which they do to get more space all over. So amazing stuff. Love it. So that ends the Desert Rally Tour. And let's get to some other exciting stuff. So these are definitely on my radar. I knew these were coming out, and I had to take a look at them. We're talking about the new Fast and Furious Off-Road. I saw these two. I know the Hummer also is available, but this black Land Rover and the Mercedes, these things are dynamite. So let's take a look at this. This is basically a 110 hardtop. This is kind of like a panel truck No windows except for the back. Flat satin black. This is almost has a metallic in it. Let's take a look at it closer. You can see there. You can see a little bit of metallic going on there. And it's got the new tires. Beetle had them in white, but this is done just straight black. These tires are going to look really, really good on some customs I'm thinking about. So definitely got multiples of these. These tires and wheels are going to look great on Greenlight and Auto World trucks. So very excited to have it. Tampa work is done impeccable. I love that there's really no graphics on the car other than factory markings. So, and the scale on this is done very nicely as well. Metal base, of course. Very, very beautiful vehicle. Very excited to have this in the collection. And of course, you can see the Defender back there. And the Land Rover done as well. So, awesome. I would say it's the same scale as the pickup that has recently come out as well. Here's another exciting casting. Let's look at this. This is a, what are they calling this? And actually, let's hold on a second. Let's look at the card art there. Really, really cool stuff. Of course, there's your full set. Did not get the Scooby or the Camaro. Very just interested in those two. You know, if I come across them, I might get them. But again, gotta put the brakes somewhere. This is a 1991 Mercedes-Benz G-Class. This is another one that I thought was going to be amazing. I wish I could have this car in real life. A two-door stick-shift diesel would be amazing on this vehicle. Very, very highly capable. Of course, the Wagon G-Wagon. Mercedes. Military and civilian. Dual use. And commercial uses too. They'll use this vehicle as well. Very heavily done. Very heavily made. Vehicle goes back into the 70s. It has come to the United States a while ago, but it's much more gussied up version than what we see here. You know, you can get this car with vinyl or cloth seats. You could get it with basically just a stick shift, you know, crank windows, two-door vehicle. Very, very capable off-roader. You know, and cost-effective too. You know, it wasn't the $200,000 G-Wagon that we see today in the States. This is a much more attainable vehicle. So these are starting to get imported here in the U.S. and this is an amazing vehicle. The Tampa work is done very good. I would say that the paint is thick on it and it hides some of the detail, namely the grille. You can see how it's kind of washed out there. I'm sure if I was to strip this casting, there would be some nice detail in that grille, but unfortunately, with the black over this thick green, not much was left to show. But it's a great casting. It's the first time we're seeing this casting. It looks amazing. I would say that the scale on this is very good. So it looks good on my layout with my other true 1/64 scale vehicles. You can see how the Mercedes licensing is done very nicely on the spare tire cover. Taillights are done impeccably. Just those wheels and tires, just A+. A+, not too big, not too small. And the other thing about them is they're the right width. So transferring these tires to, you know, a true 1/64 scale vehicle is going to look very, very nice. So there we go. All right, so we had some Hot Wheels today. Just wanted to get everybody caught up on what is going into the collection. We had a lot of variety, but what we're going to look at next is Greenlight Auto World, and that will be in another video. So, thank you for watching, subscribing, giving me your thumbs up and comments. Really appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed it, and more to come. Till next time.